morning and welcome to It Just Means More Football and Coffee. I'm Rob Williams. He's Craig McMichael, and we are here with football or college football never stops, and neither does our cup of coffee. What's up, Craig? How's it going? I see you with the G on. You, I need one that says I need a mug that says if you're listening on podcast. Craig held up his coffee mug and it says I heart meetings. I need one
I
that
heart
says
meetings about meetings, if it, depending on that. But these are one of those good meetings, unlike those work meetings where we have to be on. This is the joyful meeting I have every week.
you need one that says this could have been an email.
This could have been a tweet.
So, if you're watching on YouTube, you can clearly see, but Craig is rocking the Georgia Bulldogs stuff today. I pull my camera down a bit. You can see I have I'm fully garnet and black today. It was one of those days, man. Basketball team is rolling. Got some big games coming up, and so I wore the quarter zip yesterday with the block C, and I'm back at it again today with the sweatshirt. Temperatures have dropped in South Carolina. We went from 70 yesterday back down to a high of around 52 today, so I'm not loving it.
So forget this. I was in Florida Monday and Tuesday this week. It was 82 degrees when I left Orlando yesterday. When I got to Detroit, it was 26 and snowing.
Yeah.
What was I thinking? What was I thinking? By the way, Florida, you are beautiful. If only you could recruit, but that's another podcast.
We don't have time. We don't have time at all to get into the Florida stuff. I will be in Mexico next week, and I'm excited to get some sun and some 80-degree temperatures. So yeah, it'll be a nice change of pace from lows in the 30s and highs in the 50s and rain. I was looking forward to yard work this weekend. No, sir.
Nope.
96% tomorrow. We're going to get washed out. So it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, Craig. Here we go. Last week, if you guys weren't with us, we talked to Russ Stanton, we talked Jeff Lebby, we talked Mississippi State, all things Stark Vegas. Russ says 7-5 in year one for Mississippi State. I don't think either of us really see that. As we make our way around this SEC slate and we look at different teams, different setups, we started off here kind of looking at some of the new hires. Like I said, looking at Jeff Lebby last week. So that brings us to our main course this week, which lands us right in College Station, Texas, to talk Texas A&M.
Slice bread, baby. Let's go.
Before we even jump in, just give me, what's your overall reaction? What's your disclaimer before we go into this discussion about Texas A&M? Any preconceived notions? Are we keeping it last word on college football unbiased this week?
Hell no.
Where are we at?
Hell no. Hell no. I don't like. I loved when A&M came in with Sumlin and Johnny Football and just upset everybody in the SEC and were exciting. Since that time, they are boring in search of an identity. They've got this little brother mentality with Texas. They were trying, when Texas and Oklahoma, which we're going to talk about, came to the SEC. It was Texas A&M who broke the news, hoping that everybody would get afraid and say, "Oh no, we can't have these two teams in." So, Texas A&M has an identity crisis. They're not really sure where they are. They have not been able to capitalize on being the only SEC team in Texas, and they are going towards the middle of the pack and going all the way down. But let's dig into Jimbo. Let's talk a little Elko. Let's just figure out who is the team that they want to become. That was one of the things. When I was in high school, I had this morality class, and Father McKernan used to say, "Who is the man you seek to become?" Well, I'm going to ask Texas A&M, who is the team you seek to become? Because you are destined for 7-5. That's like a normal year, and I don't know where else we're going. So no, I'm totally biased. I'm ready to go.
To be fair, I don't think they're going anywhere but 7-5 either. I think that's just kind of where they landed. But before we get there, let's figure out how we got to this point, and let's talk Jimbo for just a second. So they make the hire.
Yep.
Big name, flashy hire. They go out and get their guy.
Spent a lot of money. Put his Christmas tree out at the doorstep, and left Florida State, which they were kind of a dumpster fire when he left Florida State. Weren't they like 6-6 and like had to play some FCS team in order to get to a bowl eligibility when he came to Texas A&M?
Yeah, they weren't doing well, so it was already trending down. But you don't get that storyline a lot because Scott Woodward, who was the former AD at Texas A&M, now currently at LSU,
Yep.
is a big game hunter. He's one of those guys who's going to go out and get his name. So
Yep.
he goes out and gets Jimbo Fisher, who is not too far removed from a national championship with Jameis Winston.
Yep.
And so even though things have started to trend downward, it's not is that just kind of gets forgotten. It gets swept under the rug. And
Yeah.
here he comes. Here he comes, right? Just into everything's bigger in Texas. He buys the ranch with the horses and the $100 million and the whole thing. And
Yep.
it's just been more of the same. Only in the COVID year did we really see them show this big spurt
Yeah. How'd
of
they do against
hope.
Alabama that year? Just
Yeah.
curious. Just curious. Like when they actually play
You mean
when they actually played a top team, how'd they do against Alabama? I feel like they got stomped.
you mean national champion Alabama?
National champion. Oh, Sark, offensive coordinator, Texas Longhorns. Welcome.
Yeah, it was ugly. It was ugly. You got a halftime score of 35-14, so it's pretty much over at that point. So the final score, for those of you who don't know, was 52-24. And that was a 1-4 matchup as far as the rankings were
Yeah,
concerned
they should
in
have definitely
October.
been in the playoffs. And yeah, I swear, gig them. We'll do some sort of 12th man cheer. Woohoo! Sorry.
Have you ever been to that?
I have. So I have not. I've got a couple good friends who are Aggies, and they're gonna love me when they listen to this. I mean, Kyle Field is an unreal experience, and I just can't figure out what is going on there because they have the money, they have the resources, they have a loyal fan base, and as much as I love to pick at them, they seemingly have everything that they have to win. But yet, you look at their history; they didn't even compete in the Big 12. They got over here to the SEC. They had a couple of nice years, and then Sumlin dipped. And then, they bring in Jimbo, which is basically Sumlin 2.0. I mean, and as you
Absolutely.
looked at it as you went on, Sumlin actually had a better record. And he had a hell of a lot more exciting of an offense. So, yeah, it's just befuddling. And I feel like they are destined to get lost in the noise with Texas and Oklahoma coming in. So,
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the yell leader situation. I haven't been to Kyle Field, but I'll throw South Carolina under the bus and the yell leaders all at the same time. In 2014, the inaugural game of the SEC Network
yep,
was at Williams-Brice. Greg McElroy predicted South Carolina to be in the college football playoff, coming off of 3-11 win seasons. Expectations were very high. It was the Kenny Trill, Kenny the Thrill Hill, whatever we want to say about him, right?
yep.
Game. They worked us over. It was probably the biggest letdown game that I've been to or that I've seen in my almost 30 years of life. But the night before the game, on the State House steps in Columbia, the yell leaders had yell practice, and so we went just to see what it was all about. And it's
a
it's
thing.
interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, it's a thing. It's about the nicest thing I could say about it. It's not.
I keep watching it, and you just look at it. You're like,
it's tough, man.
Texas A&M, or whatever. With the
very
the voice inflection, it's just like, yeah, that ain't it.
It's very tough. It's very tough. And to your point, one Big 12 championship, which was in 1998.
Yep.
So we're pretty far removed from anything significant.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, like nothing really significant. I just who's that? Like I said, who's that team they want to become? Because under Jimbo, he talked a lot, and like even like 2021, him and Saban had that spat over talking about recruiting, and then as soon as Coach Saban responded, Jimbo like, whoa, no, I didn't mean it. He backtracks because he doesn't want to get his laundry out there because there was some inducements early on. I mean, they had that's
yeah.
We're 2-3 seasons removed from a number one recruiting class. Yet now a coach is fired. We've missed a bowl game, and they're just something else. And, Jimbo, control freak, but like the offense just looked. It just never could get out of its way. So yeah, and they bought in Bobby Petrino last year and Steve Adazio. Couldn't be two nicer guys. I mean, I'm sure those three were like playing bongos and kumbaya or whatever in the office, but like it just never got off. They get rid of Jimbo and they go to Elko. So I'm going to ask you, because I've obviously let my bias fly there. What was your thought on Elko?
Well, so you referenced the recruiting class.
Yep.
A couple of years ago, historic recruiting class. Lots of money was spent. Lots of big names are brought in. Not
Yep.
A lot of those guys have now moved on.
Yep.
See Walter Nolan in Oxford.
Yep.
But I think first of all, that's the issue, is that there's not a development of talent. And one of the problems with that is, and I'm not the first person to say this, but I think that it needs to be reiterated, is that if you bring in an 18-year-old and you pay him X amount of money before he ever plays a snap,
Yep.
then you're going to run into the issue of what is his motivation to actually work hard and develop. Football is not basketball. You don't come in ready to play immediately. It's a developmental sport. So although we are very much pro NIL and I'm all for player compensation,
Yep.
One of the regulations, if I'm writing the regulations, is you got to do something on the college football field before you're getting this check.
Yeah, but
we're not just coming in based on
stop.
stars.
I want to stop you there though. Like you don't pay them, and you got to work hard. The motivation to work hard. Look at the teams in the college football playoff. Look at Ohio State. Look at Georgia. Look at Alabama. They don't talk a lot about NIL. Even I'm going to even bring up Ole Miss. Don't talk a lot about NIL, but they're bringing in top 4 and 5 star talent, and they're working hard. They're busting their ass, and they're coming out and playing. So like, yeah, while I agree, sure, you know what? There's that motivation factor. There's that the hard work factor.
Yeah.
They're competing in Athens. They're competing in Tuscaloosa. They're competing in Columbus. They even competed up in Ann Arbor. They were big in the NIL game, with the older guys. So like, to me, it all comes down to coaching. You can pay these guys, but what are you doing to motivate them? And where Jimbo feel, he could not motivate those guys to get them to go and play at a high level consistently. You lose the Appalachian State, but yet you're taking Alabama, down to the wire. It just doesn't make sense.
So to your point, you go get yourself a coach. And I think, I'm high on the Elko hire for that reason. I still think it's still a work in progress. The thing about A&M is that you're not short on facilities, you're not short on money, you're not short on NIL funds. Oil money abounds. It just continues to flow. Yep. So they're not going to be short on any of the resources that are needed to create a national championship environment. What you needed was a guy who was actually going to coach ball. And so you go back and you look at Jimbo. Where do we see that it's him alone? And you kind of go back to our conversation about Levy last week, where it's going to be a test at Mississippi State to see what does he do now that he's really out on his own. Yeah. And he doesn't have another great mind to lean on. I think Jimbo was fine when he was calling plays. Yep. And he had somebody else running the show. But you put him out there on an island.
You mean Nick Saban?
Yes, or even Bobby Bowden.
They slipped a little bit towards the end of Bowden, but
sure.
Yeah, I get that, but like even with Elko, right? Got 2 years at Duke. It's yes. Duke. Again, I'm going to ask you, who is the program you want to become? Mike Elko could be very good, and I could be eating crow, and I'm totally fine with eating crow. But you look across the minds of what is going on with who is going to the college football playoff, what is happening. You are offensive-minded coach. Steve Sarkisian at Texas. You've got Kalen DeBoer from Washington, then now in Tuscaloosa. You got, Jim Harbaugh, made his money with his defense, but pushed it in. What is Elko going to do to bring them forward? And again, okay, are you going to go more than 9 or 10 wins? I don't see it.
You named a lot of offensive-minded coaches, but you're wearing the black and red there with the back-to-back national champions.
When did Georgia? Okay, but here's the deal. When did Georgia
Oh,
finally
sure.
break through?
Monken. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Todd
yeah. I get
Monken
it.
and that now
Yeah, for
both.
sure.
So yeah. So I could be a hypocrite, but here's the deal: we're close with Jim Chaney in 2018 with the national championship, but it wasn't until they let it until Monken opened up the offense and let it rip that Georgia took the ability to either boat race teams or outscore teams like they had to do in the semifinals against Ohio State.
No, I agree.
That's my
So
part.
that comes down to Colin. That's not an Elko question. That's a Colin Klein question. Because I think that you get,
But
I think you go get Elko, and he's proven to have a defense, and he elevates defense everywhere he goes. And Duke is a difficult place to coach, right? Say what
yep.
you want, you're going to have to do more with less. I think they needed to get a guy who was going to do more with less instead of, because obviously
But
we can
you're
get
not
into Ross.
getting less. You're at Texas A&M. You've proven that you can go number one. You've proven that you can be top 10.
That's fair, but it's the mentality for me more so than are you gonna have less? Because if you have a guy who can do more than less, what happens when you give him the talent? He's already proven that he can develop guys, that he can get guys going, that he can take them from an unknown name to a Riley Leonard household name type of situation, and guys across that defense. You're going to see guys that played on Duke's defense that are going to go in the draft in just a couple of weeks. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. I think he's going to elevate the defense. But to your point, what's Colin Klein going to do? Is he going to uncork it?
Was
I
that
don't.
K-State or Kansas? Which one?
Kansas State, and he played there as well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if
Yeah.
you look at his,
Because I remember like Kansas OC. I think Kansas OC went to Penn State. Okay. But Kansas State again is interesting. But here's the deal. It's kind of run oriented. I don't know. I did like
that's
again.
what I agree with you. I agree with you. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like that's not his mo. If you look at his playing days, if you look at and what they did at K State when he was calling plays,
Yep.
I don't know that they're necessarily going to uncork it. Like I don't
Yep.
think they're just going to go out there and chunk it. Which I don't know that you necessarily need to go out there and chunk it, but you need to be able to
You
throw it
need to
when you
be
need to
able
throw
to.
it.
Right,
Yeah,
right. You got to be able to win because you're not keeping teams under 20 some points.
right. And if you can pound people for portions of the game, then pound people for portions of the game.
Right. No, 100%. And they're gonna have the athletes, but like the volleyball thing, it doesn't work. Like it
Not at
just
this level.
yeah. So I just again, it's like it's confusing. You were flirting with Mark Stoops at Kentucky, and then all of a sudden
Not flirting. That happened. And here's where I'm going to show my
I saw
lack
the
of
tweet. I
bias.
saw Mark Stoops was committed to Kentucky. He wasn't going anywhere. He tweeted that.
Oh my good. Here's where I'm going to show my lack of bias. When we talk about Mark Stoops, that situation
Right.
has got to be. And we just had the leak, right? Did you see the leak? The leaked video of the fight in the Kentucky locker room where the two players are going at it and they get body slammed. So everybody,
They're just kids. They're just
standpoint,
kids.
you get Mark Stoops taking shots at Shane Beamer 2 years ago at SEC Media Days about that Shane Beamer had changed the quote unquote climate, but
Yeah.
Mark Stoops had created a culture. And so, of course, everything from the fan bases is, wow, look at this phenomenal culture that you have where your guys are going out of the locker room. I think if you look at, I heard somebody give this example, and I think it was Mike Morgan of ESPN and SEC Network that said, imagine that you leave your wife and you've made a decision to go and be with your mistress, and then your mistress goes, you know what? Actually, I'm good. I don't think I want to take this any further. And then you have to go back and live in the house with your wife and go, honey, I was just kidding. That's not what I wanted to do. That's the Kentucky situation. So
Insert frying pan on head.
that's another podcast that because we need way more time for that. But yeah, they were
But
gonna
it brings
hire
up a
him.
point. Elko and Stoops.
Same type of coach though. It's exactly
Yeah,
the same.
but
It's the
like
same cut.
same cut. But that was, and Jed Fish said that Texas A&M talked to him in a Zoom.
That would have been a much better move, in my opinion. But
I agree. Like I was skeptical on Jed Fish coming into Arizona. Like I was like, what is that? But like he's turned that around.
yeah, but what did they have to lose also?
Right. But like I'm gonna hammer it, and this is gonna be the name of the podcast. Who is the program you seek to become?
Yeah.
Because here's the deal. Elko is a good coach. He's a great defensive coach. Does he have enough to get them to 10 wins? to get them to a playoff, to get them to the semis, to get them to the championship. What is that differentiating factor? And I'm struggling to see it. And that's why, like, are we going to be in this same spot in 3 or 4 years talking about Texas A&M only being at 8, 9, 10 wins? What is happening? And it's just, I'm struggling. And so if the 12th man wants to, sing me a tune or sing me a cheer to get it, I'm just not seeing it. So, I don't know. What do you think about the schedule? Like, what's your ideal? What's your prediction?
Yeah, so I'm looking at it right now, and to your point, while you're talking about that, I'm kind of thinking they're becoming the anti-Texas, right? You hire a defensive-minded coach, you decide not to be flashy. We're going to be the blue-collar, hard-working guys, whereas Texas is going to come in and just,
right,
take over everything. And the narrative on Texas has been for years, oh, well, they look good, but they're soft. And I think Sark is slowly shifting those tides a little bit. If I'm looking at the schedule here for A&M, I'm going to be the one game for me that really is a toss-up is the Arkansas game, which is always at the neutral site. They are always close games, always very close games, but A&M almost always wins it. I think in the past 7 or 8 years, Arkansas has won that game once. So I'm going to give the game to A&M for that reason.
Bobby Petrino is back in Arkansas. We're going to ride our hogs. We're going to go play a little volleyball. It's going to be
Part of me thinks that, just law of averages, it's time for that one to flip the other way, because those two schools kind of they're going to play it tight every time. So at some point the ball has to bounce. It has to bounce the other way. It has to bounce the other way eventually. But if I'm just looking at it, the first game of the year is incredible to me because they play Notre Dame, and so you're going to get Riley Leonard against Elko to start the year, and that's going to get some press. It's going to be a good headline. But I'm looking at like a 6-6 type of year in year one under Elko. What do you think?
Wow, that's a worthwhile hire. Bringing it 6-6. You got to do. Listen, again, I'm gonna bring it up. Well, they brought in the portal. What are they doing? Where's the noise? No noise coming out of College Station. Nothing coming out of College Station. 6-6 is fine. I do see you have the South Carolina L, though. I do like that.
I could flip it with Arkansas, honestly. But I feel like in those swing games, something will go that way. And so I chose to have Texas A&M beat Arkansas, and then South Carolina beat Texas A&M as far as laying out the schedule.
Yeah.
But it could flip, and they still end up being 6-6.
Wow, great. So you're looking at
right.
6-6 to 8-4. Again, who's the program?
Yeah.
Is that what Texas A&M is? Because I guarantee you.
No.
I guarantee you, Hook'em's coming in, and they're going to be back in the playoff again, probably hosting. And wouldn't that be fun if Austin is hosting a playoff game while College Station is getting ready for the Alamo Bowl?
There's also a world where they don't make a bowl game. It's not too much to say they go 5-7. Because if you have the schedule as I have it sitting right here, let's say they do lose to Notre Dame, Missouri, LSU, South Carolina, Auburn, Texas, and the ball bounces the other way in that Arkansas game, there you are at 5-7. Right. That's not unheard of.
It's not.
I think that they will be underdogs in all of those loss games that I have for them, except for South Carolina and Auburn. But they could be underdogs in both of those too, depending on how we look when we get to that point in the season. Both of those are in the last month.
Right.
And both of them are away games. They're at Williams-Brice and Jordan-Hare, so you never know. We'll see.
Yeah, that should be good luck, Mike.
It'll be interesting.
Hey, listen, if we got an A&M fan and we got a 12th man guy listening, I'd love to bring you on just so you can give us some interesting parts. Fun fact, by the way, my high school, my alma mater, Hullabaloo, Connect, the same fight song Texas A&M has. We have the same one. We sped it up a little bit, but no yell leaders though. No yell leaders for the Shamrocks. So
good on you guys for not bringing those in. That would be even worse at a high school level, I think.
Right.
All right. Let's get out of here, and we'll catch you guys in just a minute. Remember, It Just Means More Football and Coffee.
Welcome back to It Just Means More Football and Coffee. Here we are with the last word. And just as we said last week, here comes the 14-team playoff. We just got to 12. We haven't even played 12 yet. And now we're already moving to 14. Let me just kick off, Craig, before I get your thoughts and say, I think this is dumb. I think we should go straight to 16 if we're going to expand again. But it looks like we're going to slow roll it. Why are we doing that? I don't really know. We're at 12 now. So before we even play 12, we're going to talk about 14, try to get to 14. By the time we even establish 14, we'll say, all right, so we're at 12 now. We're going to go to 14 in 2026. And then they'll start talking about 16 and already have a date for that. Let's just jump it and just go straight there. If that's what we're going to do, that's what we're going to do. It's like we're riding the brake down a hill.
Yep.
Just let it fly. We're going to an NFL model. Let this thing go to the big two, and we'll see what happens from there.
But my big thing is like these auto bids. Like even in the 12 team. Okay, you want to give the top 4, top 5 conferences the thing. Don't give anyone a bye. Like just say, you know what? Okay, cool. The top 4, top 5, you're in the playoff somewhere, but then the committee's actually going to slot it. And if you're good enough to make the top 4, awesome. But even they go to 14. We're talking about 3 auto bids for the SEC, 3 auto bids for the Big Ten. Why? Why are you signing up for that? You are delegitimizing whatever that word is that I can't say right now. The SEC championship and the Big Ten championship. The SEC championship is special. It is unique. Are we just getting rid of it? Like I get no one cares about the ACC championship and every other one, but like the SEC championship was first, and it's special. What does it matter now in this now three teams are in that, and that's what irritates me the most is still make it should be special to win the SEC. And you're not going to do it with tiebreakers, whether we go to a 9-team or 10-game format. Keep the SEC championship. Give me 1 auto bid for the top 5. Make everything else at large, and take more spots from the Big Ten ACC.
I think the SEC and Big Ten would rather go at large all around, but the rest of the country isn't going to stand for that because it would be 12 or 14 or whatever the total is. It would be almost all SEC and Big Ten teams, which it has the potential to do that anyway. Yep. My problem with the auto bids right now is, let's say you got Georgia and Alabama in the SEC championship game. Georgia wins. Georgia gets a bye, no home game. And Alabama loses the SEC championship game and gets rewarded with a home playoff game in Tuscaloosa, which is revenue. You're going to get a crazy environment, so on and so forth. And that makes no sense. Like the setup doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I understand that 14 is just a way of getting one more SEC and one more Big Ten school in there. That's what they're gunning for. That's why it's that,
you're getting it anyway. Whether you go to 14 or 16, you're getting it anyway. And you're getting rid of 2 of the teams having a bye. It's just stop. Like go to 16. Yeah, I want everyone to play. Put those first 2 rounds at home.
Yeah.
Make it 3, but you know what? It's not going to happen because the Sugar Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl are going to pay more money than Tuscaloosa or Athens is going to be for that game. So, like, I don't know. What are we doing? I don't understand it, and it just shows like we're worried about money. We're thinking about here. We're thinking about the short term. We're not thinking actually the long term of the good of the game. And this is not. Don't stop with the auto bids. They don't like it. They don't have to join. People are going to watch because of the SEC and the Big Ten. They now have the regional footprint that covers most of the country that watches football. The Big 12 is going to be there because they're going to want to be part of the action. We don't need the auto bids. The ACC doesn't need auto bids. The ACC is going to be destroyed by the time this thing goes to 14 or 16.
Yeah, I don't like the auto bids at all. And I think that, I've never been a proponent of a college football playoffs waters down the regular season. But now we're moving there a little bit. Like if we start pushing to 14 or definitely 16, you're going to get to the point where you're going to see some teams at the end of the season. Let's say that you're an 11-1 Oklahoma, but the way things are falling, one team that you lost to, you're not going to go to the SEC championship game. What do you do with that 12th game of the year? Do you use it as a rest week? Are you like laying people off? Because if you're an 11-1 Oklahoma and you're in the top 6 teams in the country, but you're not playing an SEC championship game, you're not going to fall out of 16 if you lose one more.
I know. I don't. I just, we have unintended consequences. 12 is a great number. What are we doing? Like, that's the thing. You want to expand the playoff? Just make it 12 with no bias. You know what?
I agree.
Make it totally at large and just go with it. Like,
they're not going to do that though, because then there's no revenue for other conferences, and it's just prolonging you said the ACC. Like, yeah, I think it's going down. In the next 5 years, it's going to implode.
Yep. Yeah.
Once Florida State jailbreaks this thing and everybody can get out, it's over.
And by everyone, you mean Clemson and Miami, and maybe Virginia, North Carolina. Did you see the report this week? North Carolina is saying that they are a package deal with North Carolina State. Pass. No one wants the Wolfpack and Dave Dorrance. It's just, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think I would expect them to say they're a package deal with Duke more so because they want to keep the basketball thing alive.
Duke's private school. North Carolina State is a public university. North Carolina is a public university.
Right.
They're going to still have that. I get it, but like
they are.
But like it's just like
it's not going to hold the weight though if you're not playing for the title, because at the end of the year you have a lot of times in a basketball season where North Carolina and Duke play each other, the top 2 teams in the conference, and that's another thing added to the rivalry, and that's not going to exist anymore.
They don't bring in the dollars, my friend.
That's true. Not the football dollars.
No, not the football. Not football. Listen, they can play all they want. They can play at home and home, but
I'll take.
I'm sorry. What is Virginia going to say? Oh, we have to bring Virginia Tech.
Well, I was going to say I'll take North Carolina and Virginia Tech over Virginia and NC State because I like Lane Stadium. They have a
Beamer bias is showing. They
have a huge alum base. They at least have a national championship appearance in the past 2.5 decades.
Yeah, I was going to say 1999 called, and they want Michael Vick and Virginia Tech back. They haven't been
well, the atmosphere.
The 3-2 game against Georgia Tech.
The atmosphere in Blacksburg for a game against Georgia Tech outweighs the atmosphere in Charlottesville or Chapel Hill in the biggest game of the year.
Charlottesville and Chapel Hill have the academics that the Big Ten and everything else.
And the Big Ten can keep that, and they can stick their nose in the air and flaunt their academics.
Also lacrosse.
I would rather have yeah, exactly. I'd rather have a quality football product. You can kiss it with that academic mess. I don't care about that. What are we talking about? What are we talking about at this point?
I'm not even sure. We started 14 games over in the academic.
Now we're talking about conference. We're talking about conference expansion because the 14-team playoff is another block pulled out of this Jenga tower that's eventually going to fall over and become the Big Ten versus the SEC, AFC, and NFC style play. That's where we're headed. So what's going to happen if we keep expanding the playoff? At least we're going to eat the other conferences up, and we're going to get this massive.
Already there.
That's where it's going. But the Big Ten is Conference USA. So what are they like? They've gone national. They're eventually not going to be able to hold.
Ohio State is Conference USA. I can't wait to bring that up. The Big Ten is Conference USA. They won the national championship.
I mean, in terms of geography.
Okay. Fair enough.
So how long can they hold up this high spirit of academia? Get out of here. Like, all they want is the money and the brands. And eventually you're going to get a brand who doesn't have the academic prowess that they pride themselves on.
Come on, Rutgers is academic prowess.
Get out of here. Rutgers is in because markets used to matter.
Oh, God. All right, what you got?
I mean, Northwestern is academic prowess, but what are they doing?
Our readers. What do you got on last word for the readers?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for reining us in. I when I get off course, we're in trouble.
Right.
So last week, or actually, by the time this comes out, we're recording on Thursday, releasing on Saturday, but Thursday evening, I have a piece coming out about Clayton White, defensive coordinator at South Carolina, kind of looking over his 3 years and what are the expectations in year 4. It's a contract year for him, make or break. And so some things that I expect to see out of that defense and what he has to see in order to keep his job, I think is kind of what we're looking at there. Also, breaking this morning while we're recording, South Carolina hires wide receivers coach Mike Fury, who was the
Wait,
head
what
coach.
happened to the wide receivers coach?
Yeah.
No,
That's
what
great.
happened?
That's great, Craig.
Where'd he go?
We really did need to talk about this because we said it on the show last week that I owed you coffee. I owe you coffee if James Coley leaves and goes to Georgia. And lo and behold, not what, 36 hours?
Yep. Hey, Starbucks.
It was before. I think it was before the show, the episode actually released.
Yeah, it was like
So
Friday night. Yeah.
we have a weird thing of talking about things on Thursday when we record, and then they happen before Saturday. So maybe something that got talked about today is going to break between now and Saturday, and then we'll just look like we're behind when really we're ahead because y'all don't understand that we're recording this 48 hours before it gets to you. Anyway, yeah. So James Coley left to go to Georgia. I can give all the reasons in my mind about that. You know, his family, path of least resistance, easier to recruit. You're going to win at a higher level. The bag is bigger, yada, yada. So he's back in Athens. And so South Carolina hires Mike Fury, former head coach at Limestone. And this was a small college in Gaffney, South Carolina. Fury is a wide receivers coach at Marshall, formerly also wide receivers coach at the Bears. So we'll look at that. I got a cool interview with a Limestone football player to give me a couple of thoughts on the hire. And so I'll kind of have that working out. It should be coming out maybe a little bit after this episode drops. So that's what I've got. What about you? What's happening in Athens? What's happening around the SEC?
I'm gonna be talking about how Georgia Tech and South Carolina are the farm system for the Kirby Smart's recruiting class, recruiting and coaching staffs. We'll also be previewing, taking a look at how the Dogs looked at the combine. You know, who stood out, who did well, who actually participated, and who made some of those moves. Probably look at that coming out early next week.
All right, that sounds great. My last word is Spencer Rattler should go ahead of Penix and Bo Nix in the 4th quarterback slot in the draft. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Make sure to send us an email, secfootballandcoffee@gmail.com. You can find us at McMichael7, at Rob Williams GCP. It just means more football and coffee. Craig McMichael, Rob Williams. We'll see you next week.
Peace out, Cub Scouts.